Hey up lads and lasses, Damphyre here, back again with some more Infinite Lagrange. So this one's taking a little bit longer, and that's due to the fact that I was missing some bits, but I finally got hold of them, and then when I got hold of them I was on holiday, so I had to wait till I got back. So it's releasing today, which is the usual Thursday video. I have a couple more videos planned. I'm going to go through those patch notes a little bit, the really long ones. I'm not going to read through them all. But yeah, I'm gonna do some of that, and then we're at the end of my data server, so I'm gonna do like a sort of roundup on how the server went and stuff like that, and why I'm never going to go into a data server ever again because I hate the bloody thing. So without further ado, let's jump into the Eternal Storm module rankings, get this done, and that'll be these cap ships. And I've only got the carriers left to do in this sort of ranking system. So yeah, let's jump into it. So first off, we are looking at M1. This is the base cannon laser system that comes with it, the Vigan. It's actually just a good ion cannon at the end of the day. It's energy base. It's got decent DPM at I think it's about 16,000 per minute. And that's at base, and it's obviously upgradable. I'm not sure what it really gets to. I think it hits about 1,600 damage per hit. So you're probably looking around doubling its damage, more or less. So probably around 30,000 DPM. It could be a bit more than that, but I'm not entirely certain because I haven't pumped much tech points into my Eternal Storm, unfortunately. I do actually think the Eternal Storm might be completely sleep, because looking at some of the modules, it's got some very high damage properties on a lot of modules. Anyway, the Vigan I'm going to put into A. I think it's pretty decent. It's just a solid choice, and you've only got two choices here anyway in the M slot. So it's definitely going to go into A. For the M2 slot, we're going to go into S tier. It's a lower DPM, it's a lower damage per hit, but it switches it out to plasma casters, and you get a pair of them. Now, that might sound like it's not particularly great because it's lower damage and everything like that, but its general hit rate is higher, and it's going to have a much better time hitting enemy ships compared to the Vigan, and it's just going to actually... you're just going to get a better effective damage per minute in comparison to the on-paper damage per minute of the Vigan. So yeah, the Plasma is definitely the best in slot on the Eternal Storm if you've got it. We then move over to the A slot. So we have in A1 the anti-ship torpedo. I'm going to put this also into A. It's just a really solid siege torp. You get some anti-air turrets and stuff like this here as well, but we'll disregard those because they don't particularly work very well. So yeah, 1,600 damage per hit. It's got 9,600 damage per minute. It fires a pair of torps, I believe. It's just decent. It's a solid secondary ship weapon. Until recently, this is the weapon I recommended you put tech points into over, say, the ion cannon, because this is the secondary weapon, so it can't get knocked out with the weapon hits. Now, with the huge buff that hit battle cruisers and cruisers, where a lot of them are getting like triple the amount of HP into their systems, it takes a long time to knock out their main system, so it's a lot more functional to use the main system. And yeah, so in that case now, I'd probably say you probably put your tech points into the M slots over the backup secondary weapons. But needless to say, this one is still a very strong, big hitting torpedo. Definitely worth it in my opinion. We then have the A2. It's basically the same thing, but it's a siege torp. Now, you do lose some damage here, and it's a bit of a toss-up between them, between the A1 and the A2, but my recommendation is the A2. Now, the reason for this is it adds a hell of a lot more siege damage potential. Yes, you're losing some anti-ship damage, but in all honesty, the amount of siege damage just adds to the versatility of the ship so much that I think it's generally worth running the siege torps. So there you go. The A3 is a anti-missile system. I don't rate this at all. It's terrible. I've seen someone trying to use this recently. It did absolutely nothing to aircraft, or very little, to the point where it wasn't worth it. So yeah, unfortunately, it doesn't quite work. If this was maybe a fleet-wide system, or at least, you know, like 2 rows or something, it might potentially be better in that circumstance, but at the current moment it just doesn't do what it needs to do, and it's just lost on the Eternal Storm when you've got some, you know, incredible other systems that can, you know, spew out more siege damage or more anti-ship damage in the first place. So we then move on to B1. And in B1, you can have the dual cannon heavy battery system. It's anti-large, 350 damage per hit, with 4,200 damage per minute. It's okay. I mean, you get it. I'm pretty certain you get this one for free anyway. It's on the ship, so it's neither here nor there really. It's probably, yeah, it's in the middle really, if anything. You then have B2, which gives you more anti-aircraft capability. Unfortunately, this is in the style of just generic cannons, and cannons have a really hard time hitting aircraft in the first place. That's why you don't see any anti-aircraft cannons doing particularly well. So that's a bit unfortunate. So yeah, it's in D. Not much more I can say about that, really. In C slots now, we have, starting off, the area denial anti-aircraft UAVs. These, unfortunately, also don't work particularly well. If these get fixed and they become fleet-wide, like, say, the Xeno Stinger's defensive one, I'd highly recommend this. These would be really, really good in that situation. But, unfortunately, no, they don't. We then have the weird shield UAV system. I'm going to put this into C. Now I'm going to put it into B. It does work. Now, what it does is these UAVs fly over to the enemy ship and fly around it and have a percentage chance of stopping it firing energy-based weapons. In the case of things like IOs, this can hurt its DPM horrendously badly. If you get a bit lucky, it can absolutely just drive IOs and anything with a pretty serious, hefty damage cannon, ion cannon or anything like that. This can shut them down pretty nastily. So they do have a place. I just don't think they're as good as the C3 system. So the C3 system is a armor system. It gives you a 15% damage reduction against energy and projectile damage, and a 30% crit resistance. It's just a very good overall system that, you know, it's reducing the damage taken. And at any point where you can get any type of damage mitigation at all, highly recommend. It's essential in most cases to reduce the damage incoming, and these are flat percentage, including the projectile. It gets a flat percentage as well. I am not 100% certain how it's calculated, if this is calculated before or after armor and the energy resistances of the ship anyway. It'd be interesting to try and work that one out at some point. I'd want to say that these would be calculated prior to hitting armor and energy resistances, and if that's the case, you can mitigate horrendously large amounts of damage with this ship, and it could potentially be pretty damn tanky. Unfortunately, I don't know many people that are run Eternal Storms with enough TP to really challenge, say, maxed out spears and maxed out CTGs, because that's primarily what everyone puts their tech points into. So I'm sort of winging it a little bit on that. But I suspect this might be the most underrated battlecruiser, and it might actually be extremely powerful in the right situation, and give spears and CTGs a run for their money if they've got enough of these STM modules and stuff. We then go to D1. This is a brand new system that you just slap onto the ship, and you get an 800 damage per hit energy turret with 7,500 DPM. These are really good. Again, if you got a mix of this M2 with a C3 D1 and either the A2 or the A1, you're chucking out absurd amounts of damage. Bear in mind that bar those torps, everything's energy based as well, so you will be slapping apart any armored things, SD59s that don't have the EM armor on. These things are just going to wreck through them. Spears, I don't think spears with the healing UAVs, I think Eternal Storms maxed out will knock a spear out on a one-on-one. It has to. There's so much damage coming out of these Eternal Storms, and they're all energy based. So keep an eye out. I reckon maxed out Eternal Storms might be a lot better than people give them credit for. They might have a lower DPM on paper, but I actually think their ability to apply that damage might be better than the CTGs. We then have the D2. This is unfortunately not quite so good. It's a anti-aircraft turret. You do get a few of them. There's like 4 of them or something like that. They do 30 damage per hit. But again, it's anti-aircraft. They are energy based. So if you are desperate in need of some anti-aircraft energy, I believe these only target the ship. So if something's attacking the ship, they'll only target those aircraft, which is a bit unfortunate. But in most cases, energy-based turrets that are anti-aircraft or have anti-aircraft capabilities fare fairly damn well. Ion Rubies, for an example, Taurus Defensives do really well as well. So these are potentially not a bad anti-aircraft, so I'm going to put them into B. So there we have it. That is the TMA, the tier list for the modules on the Eternal Storm. Again, as before, I'll be putting a copy of this onto my Discord, so if you want to just come grab that, you can, and I'll leave links as well to it online, so you can check it out online. Again, there's not much I could really do with trying to keep these as visible as possible because of the small form factor in this program that I'm using. Only allows, I think these get squashed down to 100 by 100 pixels, and there's a bit of a limit there on like size, like 500 pixel limits and stuff like that. So apologies there. This is the best way I thought about doing it. I will try and work out a better way of doing it at some point. I know some people have suggested doing spreadsheets and stuff, but my Excel days have been long time ago, and I barely remember how to use spreadsheets anymore. So until I try and remember how to do that, I will be sticking with this for the time being. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you next time.